What's up, St. Louis? Jamal Mayers here. Want a chance to watch the Blues like an insider with me? When you become an annual STL Sports Central insider, you're automatically entered to win. We're picking 2 winners, each bringing a guest to join me in the Blues Alumni Suite for the game versus the Edmonton Oilers on Friday, March 13th. That's right, Connor McDavid. We'll have free drinks, heavy appetizers, and an unforgettable night of Blues hockey. Sign up now at STL Sports Central, and I'll see you at the game.
Unless you've been living under a rock, you know the St. Louis Cardinals have torn the team down to the studs. 3 days until pitchers and catchers officially report to Jupiter, Florida in spring training, and the Cardinals, under the leadership of President of Baseball Ops Chaim Bloom, trying to figure out how to navigate a full-on rebuild. Ethan Hannaford, Luke Slabaugh, Card Central 365 here on this Saturday, February the 7th. And Ethan, 2026 has got off to an unsettling start. How do you define a successful campaign this season?
Geesh, you do not waste any time, and I appreciate that about you. The people don't want all this lollygagging and waiting around. They want the answers. And I'm going to give an answer here. How do I define success in 2026? It's a tough question because obviously it's not going to come in a win-loss style this year. That if you are going based off of the Cardinals need to win this amount of games in order for it to be a successful year, then you're missing the point of what 2026 is. We'll get Luke back in here in a second. He's having some camera issues, but the point of 2026 is to try and build some sort of idea of who can be the guys that down the road, come hopefully 2028, you will be able to trust are going to be a legitimate part of this team, this organization, once it is in a spot where they're perhaps closer to winning. So hopefully that's 2028. That's kind of the bar that I have set in my mind, but I'm not entirely set on it has to be 2028, but I think it's fair to say that is a good, at least for now, spot that we can probably look towards. But we're not talking about 2028 right now. We're talking about 2026. What can this St. Louis Cardinals team be in 2026? Obviously, there are certainly some names that pop out at the start of this season that we're going to be keeping a close eye on. JJ Wetherholt certainly is a big one, but it's so much more than that. One of the nice parts, Luke, about 2026 is that last year there was such a logjam going into the season as to who was going to play where, and you had this messaging coming from the front office that, hey, we want to give up guys the opportunity, the runway to figure out who they are and to develop into good baseball players. But that didn't necessarily match on the field. There wasn't enough spots for everyone. And in large part, that was because in a season where they weren't necessarily expected to compete, I know that some mumbo jumbo got threw out right before the season that they expected to be a playoff team. That was BS. In large part, they were expected to be a team that was going to be giving young guys opportunity. That message shifted a little bit because of Nolan Arenado. That's not the case this year. You pretty much, not all of them, but you pretty much right now have 8 or 9 positions where it feels like you have an idea of who's going to be playing there. It's going to shift around. There's going to be injuries. Things are going to not look the same on day 1 as they do on game 162. But generally, you know that your infield is going to be Alec Burleson at first base, probably JJ Wetherholt at second base, Masyn Winn at short, Nolan Gorman at third, Jordan Walker in right, Victor Scott the second and center. And once Lars Nootbaar is healthy, he'll probably be in left, and then you'll have Herrera catching, DHing, having a healthy mix of whatever. And you have a few other guys as well. What do those guys do with the opportunity that they are given in 2026? That is how you define success for this year. If you're able to look at Masyn Winn, who I think we all agree is near the top of the league defensively. But we're still waiting to see him take that next step with the bat to where you're looking at him and you're saying, yeah, he's jumped to that next tier of quality of shortstops in the league. Nolan Gorman, can we see him do it consistently, find those power numbers, and not strike out 40% of the time, right? Jordan Walker, can you see him get back to a version of himself in 2023, his rookie season? There's a lot of individual bullet points, Luke. I think that you go down the list of, and you could make several of them probably for almost every player on this roster. I don't know what the number is. Let's say there's 26 bullet points. Let's say one for each player. If you're able to get 13, 6, I don't know what the number is, of those bullet points checked out to where you feel like you feel better about the player at the end of the year than you do now, I think that would be a really good way to gauge success for the Cardinals in 2026. I'm going to say this one more time. If you were basing success in 2026 based off of their win-loss total, then the season's going to disappoint you. This is not the year for that. They are rebuilding, regardless of what the DeWitts say. They are rebuilding. So we have to focus on individual player success this season.
Individual player success may not translate to wins. I'll say this. The Brendan Donovan trade was the most promising news that the Cardinals organization has had in 5 years. It was 5 years and a day to when they acquired Nolan Arenado from the Colorado Rockies. And it was the moment in time where, in both instances, the team made a bold move in either direction. The Cardinals now have 6 of the top 100 prospects in baseball. A couple of them acquired in the last several months. And this is a volume business because there is no guarantee that prospects work out. It is very much a lottery ticket scenario. There's no guarantee that J.J. Wetherholt is going to crush immediately when he starts playing in the middle infield for the Cardinals. Several people on this network say that he's a lock for the opening day roster. Says who? And come April 20th, who knows? So there's still need to rebuild and retool at the minor league level. There is, and very much in parallel to the mid-90s when the Cardinals last tore it down to the studs, the Cardinals did not have middle infield depth forever. And you go back into those mid to late 90s teams, they had to go with solutions like Geronimo Pena and Trip Cromer. And eventually we're parlaying trades for Royce Clayton and Delino DeShields and Fernando Vina and eventually Edgar Renteria. Not until Brendan Ryan did they get a middle infielder that had a greater than 1 win above replacement season. These things take time and they take a process. So realistically, the Cardinals are not done building depth at the minor league level. They could get more outfield depth. They could parlay this season into building more for a sustainable future. And so our eyes turn to the drafts. I think the most important day, even this year, is July 12th and 13th in Philadelphia. The Cardinals have 6 of the top 100 picks in the draft. You can hit on several needs in the organization, get the best players available, and when combined with the season that is looking a little bit more grim than 2025, they could potentially find themselves in a lottery situation, having never picked higher than 3rd in the draft. Shout out to right-hander Braden Looper. And they can. World Series champion Braden Looper, mind you.
Hey.
And they can really parlay this into a long-term sustainable success.
Yes. I do not disagree that is one of the most important dates, individual dates on the calendar this year. You mentioned the number of draft picks that they have. Of course, a couple of those being acquired in the Brendan Donovan trade that was made just a handful of days ago. I believe that they added, at the time, it was the 68 and 72nd picks. I think that those have been pushed back a couple of picks due to some transactions made in the league since, but it's still, you're looking at 6 picks of the first 85, 86 or so, which is extremely exciting. It's the most that the Cardinals have had in that amount in several years. So you look at what Chaim Bloom has been able to do. Who knows? It's hard to know. We haven't gotten a really good answer as to what his fingerprint, I guess, or should I say level of decision making in the 2025 MLB draft was. You'd have to imagine it was pretty big. His fingerprints, his DNA is all over, right? When you look at the direction in which they are wanting to head, more velocity on the fastball, more strikeout quality stuff. That certainly is something that when you look at the prospects that they have acquired and the players in which they took in last year's draft, it's a direction that they are heading in. So this draft this year, I don't know too much about who specifically we could be looking at. They have the 13th overall pick. But what I have heard about this draft is that it's pretty deep. And there's a lot of talent in this year's draft. So it sounds like, and that's, just with a very general amount of information that I've been told and heard, is that we could be looking at a year, the perfect year for, obviously you always want to hit big with the lottery, right? The Cardinals did not draw well this year. They had the 8th highest odds of having the number 1 pick. They drew 13th. So that's unfortunate. But if there was a year where you wanted 6 of the first 80, whatever picks it is, seems like this could be that year. And it's going to be an opportunity once again for the Cardinals to continue replenishing this this farm system that they have already continued to do. When you look at what they have been able to add since the 2025 trade deadline, they've added quite a few new names from other organizations or from college, high school, into their top 30 that weren't there before. So they certainly have continued to revamp this farm system, and it seems like there's a good chance, based off what we've seen so far, right? It seems like there's a good chance that that's going to continue this upcoming summer with the MLB draft.
I want to add a qualifier to something that I said just previously in terms of a greater than 1 win above replacement middle infielder. I should have said homegrown in advance of that. This is not a diss on David Eckstein or anything like that. We understand the Cardinals had to acquire middle infielders for those championship runs. Just saying. Meanwhile, the Super Bowl is coming. It's tomorrow. It's tomorrow. The big game. It's on TV, and it's the Seahawks versus Pats. Who you got, Ethan?
I'm rolling with Seattle. My heart hurts that as a Vikings fan, Sam Darnold is playing for a Super Bowl and it's not my team. But they're just stacked on the offensive and defensive side. So I'm rolling with Seattle to win and cover.
That is the safe bet. Got the GM in Minnesota fired. DraftKings Sportsbook is the official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 60, so we can say Super Bowl. None of this big game nonsense. DraftKings early exit is a thing. If a player goes down in the first half, you still get paid out in cash immediately once your bet settles. No bonus bets, no waiting. If you're new to DraftKings, new customers can bet just $5 and get 300 bonus bets if your bet wins. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code STL Sports. That's code STL SPORTS to turn $5 into 300 in bonus bets if your team wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Be safe daily. Take it away.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus, physically present in Missouri. Eligibility and restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer.
The voice of an angel. Notoriously, Schaefer and I graduated the same year from Mizzou and never met each other.
What?
So the print guys and the TV guys were on separate ends of the universe.
Arch nemesis
in Dunedin. And now we talk about the players to lock in on this year. Last week, Ethan, you made a case for Victor Scott II having a breakout year in the outfield. What reasons do you have? for him to be a turning point and a crucial cornerstone in this rebuild.
Just to clarify, you are wanting me to share my reasons for optimism as to why Victor could have a better year, or just in general?
Or just how you define his role in this rebuild, because you are high on him.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know if I would say that. I don't know. It's hard to break down whose development is most important right now for, let's just say, the starting nine, or projected starting nine. I would say that when you look at the style of play that Victor Scott has, we already know what the defense is. Similar to Masyn Winn, it's near the top of the league at his respective position. Victor Scott II has this this piece of his game in his speed that has the opportunity to make him formidable to opponents. This is a guy where I've talked on both here and my podcast, The Loose Sports Talk, about if he is able to correct some things that he's been working on throughout the off season. I think that there's reasons to be optimistic, in that if he can get on base more, if he can improve this approach, if he can have, if you can start trending in the right direction, that he becomes a very dangerous option for the Cardinals because of his speed, which is something that not a lot of teams can say that they have, is a guy like him, that if he's able to get on base, he is a go to green light pretty much any time. And so I shared on a recent episode of the Loose Sports Talk some of the things that he's done throughout the offseason. Got a body motion capture done, a force plate test done to better understand how his body moves. They broke down his swing, his stance, his approach, back to the baby steps, basically. And they said, what can we tweak? What can be better? Ollie Marmol spoke at length during winter warm-up about guys that he's most excited to see this spring. And Victor Scott was his name because he has seen the preparation that he does. He has seen his mindset be very strong in the midst of a year where the numbers just weren't there. He has seen how he responds to those struggles, which, I trust Ollie Marmol. I trust the things I've, heard from Vic. Just gives me a level of hope and optimism that he's going to be better this year. But I think that he is a good example as to why. I think he is a good example of. I'm trying to figure out how to word this. Like I said, I'm struggling to say this guy's development is most important, that guy's development is most important, because I think that they could, different guys serve different roles. Jordan Walker, Nolan Gorman, you would love to be able to add some power into a lineup that doesn't have much of it. Masyn Winn, you would love to have a guy that you could say, this is going to be our leadoff guy for the next 10 years. You'd love to find that guy. Victor Scott II, you could make the same case and say we're solidified in center field. So all these guys, I think there's different benefit to what what their development could look like this year. And you could make the case that most of them are just as important as others, just for different reasons, because they all provide different things to a lineup. Specifically with Victor Scott, it's can you get him on base more so that he can take advantage of his speed and increase the run production.
And another thing that to take advantage of, and something that we learned from the Cardinals in 2025, is there is a sense of flexibility among this core in place right now. Alec Burleson switched positions quite a bit. Iván Herrera has shown a malleability and a willingness to get better at the catcher position. Nolan Gorman initially, when he came up, played second base, far from his natural position at third. You've got J.J. Wetherholt and Thomas Ajayci likely moving around in the infield. Victor Scott could play all three outfield positions. That is a good quality to have in the midst of uncertainty and unsettling offseason. Everyone can move around while producing at the plate. This team, as you mentioned, is not going to stoke the fear in opposing pitchers that does lack power. And if Iván Herrera by chance goes down with an injury and JJ Wetherholt isn't all that he is hyped up to be immediately, which is a very realistic possibility, the offense could look like the fighting Alec Burlesons at some, and that's not a great situation to be in the context of a rebuild. And it's not good for morale. It's not a good product on the field. There is a slight possibility. Uh, Another thing to mention, just a footnote on the draft: the top 4 prospects on MLB Pipeline for the 2027 draft, not this one coming up the year after, are all shortstops. You got Justin LeBron out of Alabama. You got the kid at UCLA. A good opportunity if the Cardinals do find themselves in a position for a high lottery pick to get some more middle infielder, up the middle talent as this rebuild progresses. Final thoughts, Ethan Hannaford, as we put a bow on this one on Saturday, February the 7th.
Because the Cardinals are now a revenue sharing team, they are eligible for the lottery again next season, which is big. It didn't work out this year. Bad draw. There's a world, and I think a lot of us would probably say there's a very realistic chance that they have a worse record this year than they did last year when you look at some of the players that they have lost. As a result, mathematically, right, their chances of having the number 1 pick, the more tickets that get put into the lottery, the better chance that is. So, I'm not saying I want them to be terrible this year. Obviously not. Like we said, there is a world in which 2026 can be a really successful season for the Cardinals in the standards of what we have discussed, looking more individually, while their chances for a number 1 pick increase. So let's hope that that combination happens, because it certainly would be huge for the Cardinals to be able to bring in a lottery quality piece like they have been able to the last couple of years in JJ Wetherholt and Liam Doyle.
All we do is talk about quality pieces. He's one of them. He's Ethan Hannaford, and I'm Luke Slaybaugh. This has been Card Central 365 on this Saturday. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great one, guys. This show brought to you by DraftKings. The crown is yours. Peace.